Let's build a rock crawler. I am super excited for today's video. We're going to be assembling the GS02F, Gmade's latest crawler release, and we're going to be putting all these goodies in front of it inside. If you're unfamiliar with the GS02F, it was released by Gmade earlier this year. I want to say around February time. We got our kit a couple months ago, and it's just been sitting here idle. Finally get a chance to assemble this thing and see what it's made of. I've heard really good things. Some people have had a few hiccups in the build. We're gonna see if we encounter those as well. And we got some really cool electronics to put into it. As you can see, this thing is loaded right out of the box. It has the GA44P portal axles, which are tilted like an actual rock crawler's would be. It has a forward weight balance, so hopefully this prevents tipping over on the rocks. Of course, link suspension, inner fenders, nothing fancy there, 4-wheel drive, overdrive. It does have a 2-speed transmission though, which is absolutely awesome. We did receive one of the earlier kits, so it does have the bonus metal balls inside, which is a really cool upgrade right out of the box. Of course, this is a self-build kit, so you're gonna need to bring all your own electronics to the table. You're gonna need your motor, ESC, servo, shift servo, radio receiver, and battery charger, all that good stuff. And in this build, we're gonna put some pretty dope electronics in it. Ironically, they're all black and orange, so we got a black and orange theme going. Maybe we'll paint the body that. You're just gonna have to wait and see. For the servo, we're gonna go with the Savox SA-1230SGP. It has the soft start, which is gonna be great on a rock crawler, and it is SSR compatible if you have a Sanwa receiver. It's got tons of torque, way more than enough for your average rock crawler. It has a speed of 16 milliseconds and a torque of 36 kilograms at 499.9 ounces. For the motor and ESC option, we've decided to go with the Konect Crawler 2-in-1 brushless system. Since this is a front forward weight vehicle, we thought it was only fitting to stuff the ESC in there as well. We went with the 1800 kV version. This also has a 40 amp ESC. It's gonna handle 2 and 3S LiPo. Has an XT60 connector already soldered on there. It's a super easy drop in and go combo. And at 1800 kV, it's going to be super slow for the rocks, but still have a little bit of speed for the trails, so it's not absolutely slugging behind everyone else. For the radio system, we're going to go with the Konect X9S. It's a 9-channel radio receiver combo, so we're going to have plenty of slots if we want to add in a bunch of lights. If you want to see a video about the X9S, you can watch that here. And if you're unfamiliar with Konect, they're a France-based brand. They're making really high-end quality electronics. You can find them all on our website, and all of these products you'll see here will be linked below in the description. Enough of me yapping, let's get into the build. Okay, so first things first, let's rip these balls off, just like your wife's gonna do to you if you purchase this kit without her permission. Alright, if the rest of the kit build goes like me taking these stickers out of the package just did, we're gonna be here for a few days, so I pray to God it does not. I was absolutely struggling. Okay, so flipping this open, of course it's gonna tell you everything you're gonna need to complete the truck, but you flip open to the next page and it actually has a really nice layout parts reference of everything that's included in the kit. It goes by bag all the way down through. This is really nice layout, and there's the rest of it there. That's pretty cool. Not all kits do that, so it is nice that it is included. Just make sure you don't over tighten these, and that the lip is facing the inside. So far this is good on this side. Just gotta snug these down a little bit, but it seemed like one of the few complaints with this kit were the hubs being too tight on the axles, but that's actually really nice. It's just about the perfect amount of play that you want. On the rear axle, you have these two long bolts that are supposed to go through the case here, through this second half of the case, and screw into the axle. Now, in the instructions, it tells you to use the 2.5 by 25 millimeter. It is not closing that case. It seems to thread into the axle okay as far as thread diameter goes, but length, it is not long enough. Alright, now the cases are closed. And just real quick, wanted to highlight this motor mount. It actually has the turn pinions labeled right on there for whatever pinion you want to run, and then you just set the screws in that hole. It's really convenient and easy way to gear your truck. Little gear selector. Guys, just want to give you a bit of an update here. I got the body all cut out and all the holes reamed, and there was a absolute ton of holes to cut out in this. Being a crawler, you got the roll cage holes, the holes for the seat, the steering wheel. Like, there's just so much going on with this body as far as reaming goes. Alright guys, so I had moved on to the next step, but I did run into another snag. I only have one 2.5 by 8mm wrench bolt. I don't have another one, so I did get shorted one bolt. So I was able to find a second screw, so we'll keep moving forward here. Had to go get some more grease. We're pretty much completely out of the kit grease. There's almost scraped clean in there. Without further ado, here's the finished product. Overall, I'm really happy with the final build of this vehicle. However, it did not come without its complications. We experienced several different setbacks while building the kit. We were missing one screw, not a big deal. We just grabbed another one out of a spare parts bin. The included grease did not include nearly enough. Just a standard little container of grease here with their logo on it. You're gonna need more. Even going super conservatively on the amount of grease we applied, we still ended up having to bust out a backup to finish off the drivetrain. There's a lot of cutting in this build as far as getting parts off the parts trees, and the molding doesn't exactly release the easiest. The biggest issue we faced, however, was on the rear axle, where the bolt goes through the outer case where the hub is, through the inner case that connects on the actual axle assembly. I believe it was a 2.5 by 25mm bolt that was recommended, and it seemed to thread in there perfectly fine diameter wise and pitch wise. However, it didn't seem long enough. It seemed like the threads on the rear axle tube were set back, so it wasn't threaded all the way through the beginning of that little slot on the axle tube. So I ended up going with a 3mm bolt. It was the only option I had that was long enough to go through but not go all the way through and be sticking out. So I did widen that hole just a little bit. You also get a ton of spare parts with this truck. Everything from driveline axles to even another spare seat, which is kind of weird because there's not a spot in the body for one. You get the little balls, the rod ends, plenty of leftover shock oil, and then another different chassis brace, and a few other goodies. The only thing pictured in the spare parts we didn't install in the truck were the rear light buckets for the taillights. Only reason is they have to be double-sided taped in, and we planned on removing them to install a light kit in the future, so it didn't make sense to install them right now. So what it makes up for in a lack of grease, it definitely makes up for in the amount of spare and extra parts you're going to be receiving in this kit. I'm not sure if Gmade did that because they sell other similar models and it's easier just to make one molding of a parts tree, throw those into all the different boxes, or what the deal was, but hey, it's free extra parts, and if you can't use them on this truck, you can definitely use them on another build. The suspension flex is pretty great. The rear definitely has quite a bit more than the front, as standard on most rock crawlers, and I think you could get more out of it. The stock shocks don't have a bleeder cap screw, so they're kind of a pain trying to set the right amount of rebound and compression, and they just seem to be really stiff. I had a hard time getting them to soften up. So I do have the adjustable nut and springs pretty much all the way up on the shock bodies. I'm hoping once we run the truck a little bit, it'll soften the shocks up and we can rebuild them and get them to be even softer when it's going across the trail. As far as the stock tires and foam go, I'm pretty impressed. They're insanely soft. I think they're gonna grip the rocks pretty well. The only thing we might do to them is just cut the tread and get a little more space in between there, because there is a lot of individual tread pieces. And as you can see by the truck sitting here, there is so much forward weight that the front tires are sagging just sitting there. They're all compressed. Front traction is going to be absolutely zero issue with this vehicle. Drivetrain rolls exceptionally smooth, especially for not being an inline transmission. The shifting of the transmission with the stock gear ratio is smooth, and there is a huge noticeable difference between the two speeds. As far as appearance goes, I think this looks really sweet. You get that competition rock crawler kinda rock racerish vibes. The included decals let you put on the radio, vents, dash display, little gas tank caps, which is pretty cool. It includes a molded steering wheel, mirrors, shifter assembly, and seat, which is really awesome as well. The roll cage snaps together super easy. It is like 4 or 5 pieces. They just bolt right together. Insanely easy to take on and off if you wanted to. However, do be aware that it is also what connects the windshield on. So if you do want to take the roll cage off, you're going to lose your windshield as well. And then lights. We didn't have any lights to install while building this kit, but it is super easy to go back and install them, which we might do in an upgrade video coming soon. The light bar on this thing is absolutely sick. You have another light bar up front, headlight assemblies and tail light assemblies, and even little like LED pods in the rear bumper. They just look freaking awesome. Next to the LED pods on the back, there's also a spot where you can put in a hitch as well. The doors are not removable. They kind of look like it in the pictures, but they are completely bolted onto the roll cage. If you did want to make them swing open, you will have to do a little bit of your own custom work. The only downfall to any of the body accessories has to be the mirrors. They are just held in there with a body clip. However, when the truck does roll, the mirror is going to be the first thing it hits. I was hoping they'd be tucked in just a little more. You can adjust the bottom rock skirts, but I'm not sure how well that'll help, so just be wary. You might end up breaking a mirror too when you roll over. Speaking of rock skirts, flip it over to the bottom of the chassis. You can see we have them all the way in, flush mounted against the body, but you do get a little bit of adjustability and can move them out if you choose. Taking the body off is really simple. You got 2 body post clips in the back, and then your front, it's a hidden mount, which is really cool, and they're located right behind the front bumper. We went with a pretty unique color combo on this, and while it didn't come out perfect due to my own fault, I'm absolutely in love with it. It's this really cool bluish green gold that, depending on what part of the body you're looking at, shines a little differently. We ended up using Tamiya light translucent blue. We did 3 coats of that, followed by 2 really heavy coats of pearl clear Tamiya paint. We backed that with the gold Tamiya paint, and then finally finished it off with black. Definitely could have been a little bit heavier on the blue in certain spots, but I think it adds the uniqueness how it's darker on top and then fades into the gold coming down across the sides. Let me know what you guys think of the color down below in the comments. The body itself with the roll cage is fairly light, definitely a lot lighter than a hard body and not much heavier than a regular Lexan body. Gives you a scale look while still maintaining its lightness. Under the body is where it gets a little unique. Some of the molded accessories are screwed on where others have a little O-ring and a body clip. I guess it's just quick detach if you want to detach it, but at the same time it's a little weird. I'd almost rather screw them on simply because trying to put the body clips in after you have a freshly painted body can sometimes end in disaster if you're not precise. Put a big old scrape right through your paint job. As far as the chassis layout itself, I absolutely love it. It is a really clean looking truck from underneath and up top, even having that second servo for the shifter. For the shifting servo, we ended up going with a Turnigy TS940HD digital servo. Way overkill for the shifting servo, but it's what we had laying around, so we went ahead and stuffed that in there. The receiver box is mounted way on the back of the chassis next to the rear shocks. So just a heads up, you are going to need some extenders pretty much no matter what electronics you use. This truck probably puts the motor and servo as far forward, or if not further, than any other crawler on the market. A lot of crawlers will claim a forward mounted motor, but it is set behind the front axle. This really throws it over the front axle, as well as the servo being damn near inline over the front axle as well. Our Konect combo has the ESC built into the motor, so it's even more so centered over the axle in this truck. And this truck is definitely forward heavy. You can easily lift the rear up with one finger, not so easily with the front. If I had scales here, I would love to get this on the scales and just see what the front weight balance is, but I guarantee you it's a lot. If you want to get really dialed into balance, you could mount the ESC across from the shifting servo or next to the receiver box as well. The battery mounts in the front half of the truck as well, and the transmission is centered really low in this truck. It is about as flat and down as you can get a 2-speed transmission, and the end of the transmission ends just past the halfway point of the truck. So like we were saying earlier, this is a ton of weight going towards the front of the chassis. When assembling the truck, the gears seem to all be made out of real high quality metal. The outdrives are metal, the links are metal. This one had the metal balls. The only chassis components that are plastic that you may want to consider upgrading in the future is just your axle tubes, and then of course your drive shafts are plastic as well. Another cool chassis feature is it actually has a built-in motor fan mount to the front cross brace that goes over your motor, which is really sweet and a nice touch, especially if you're going to be doing high power long runs. Can't go wrong with a little fan in there just for some added protection. They do come with a portal axle, which is pretty much standard across the board when building a purpose-built rock crawler. A unique feature though, these are actually slanted inward and up, so you do get just a slight bit more clearance, but overall extremely happy with the layout of this chassis. So that begs the question, is the GS02F worth the price tag? This crawler comes in at $370, which for a rock crawler is kind of up there in the price range for being a bare kit and needing to add in all your own electronics. It's not perfect, and we mentioned the little hiccups we had during the build, some my own fault, some of the manufacturers, and the instructions are pretty good, but they're not perfect. There's a lot of points in the instruction manual where they'll have the truck facing this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then this way, for very similar steps in order, like 37, 38, 39, 40, etc. for example. So you have to be mindful of that and continuously try to realize where your truck is pointed. There was a couple spots in there that I got a little confused. A few things didn't make perfect sense, had to go with my gut, and then later on ended up having to change a few parts back that I made mistakes on. So beginner friendliness, I'd give it maybe a 6 out of 10. If you're mechanically inclined, you're gonna have zero problem putting this together. If you're brand new, getting in the hobby, it might be a little difficult. It's not impossible though. I do think what you get in the box and performance-wise, it is going to be well worth your money. For the price tag, there's not too many 2-speed forward weight bias trucks with the portal axles angled in. To get all of that in one kit is pretty amazing. And if you're buying this kit anyway, you're probably not a beginner. You've probably been in this hobby for a little while, so you're gonna be perfectly fine. And you're most likely gonna have your own battery, charger, radio, receiver. So the only thing you're really gonna need is the motor ESC and 2 servos. If you're going to be doing serious rock crawling, the only real upgrade I think you're going to need eventually will be the shocks. So that being said, I am really impressed with this truck now that it is built. Can't wait to get out on the rocks, put it to use. Like I said earlier in this video, if you're interested in anything you see here in this build, including the tools we use to assemble it, everything will be linked in the description below, and you can learn more about the Gmade GS02F on our website, www.naughtyboyrc.com. And remember, keep it naughty.